What is a web control system? It's a building automation system that allows you to keep your occupants comfortable while you save lots of money. You can view a web control system in a web browser on a computer or on a mobile tablet. That web browser goes across the internet to a server that's running the database that has all the information about your system in it. The server is connected to your equipment by an IP network. The controller in the field receives information from the environment, and it also does some calculations about what it should be doing under what conditions. And then it has outputs, which means it can turn on or operate physical equipment in the field. So here's a whole system: the web browser, the server, the network, the controller and room sensor, and the physical equipment. If we look at it from a different angle, each zone has a room sensor that collects information about that zone. The room sensor sends the information to the controller, and then the controller can actually control a physical piece of equipment with its outputs. All of the controllers are networked together. And then a special controller, which is a backnet router, sends all the information to the web control server. If allowed by IT policy, it is possible to connect to the web control system from anywhere in the world via the internet. Thermographic colors indicate how much a zone's actual temperature differs from its set points. Here we see some microblocks from the logic page that will tell web control what it should do based on a sequence of operations. First, we have the schedule microblock. That tells the setpoint microblock which color band to use, whether occupied or unoccupied. Then the setpoint microblock determines the relationship between the current conditions in the program setpoints. And last, we have the setpoint microblock displays the results as a thermographic color. When using the occupied setpoints, we want the system to work as little as possible to keep the zone temp in the green range. When we use the unoccupied setpoints, we relax the setpoints so we can save money. When unoccupied, there are no people in this space, so we just need to keep pipes from freezing and the paper from curling in the copier. Here's what thermographic colors look like when we use the occupied setpoints. Here's what thermographic colors would look like when using the unoccupied setpoints. And from the help files of Web Control, here are the different colors and statuses we can see on our thermographic colors. Now, before we log in and do a live demo of Web Control, let's look at an overview of the interface. Let's first start with the navigation tree. The navigation tree has 4 individual trees that help us navigate throughout the system. First is a geographic tree. This is where we can navigate through the Web Control interface using the system's geographic layout. Next, we have the network tree. The network tree is how we navigate through the Web Control interface using the system's network layout. And then we go to scheduled groups trees. On this tree, we can create groups that can consist of areas, equipment, or other groups. You can then assign a schedule to the entire group instead of the individual item. And the last is a system configuration tree. In that tree, this is where most of the items are used for the setup and maintenance of your system. Now, if we go over to the action pane, the action pane has all of these action buttons, which starts with the graphics, then properties, alarms, trends, logic, and reports. And anytime we see an arrow, that's letting you know there are subcategories below that. And here's a look at those categories. And then if we select over, we can see the items in that category. And we also have the action tabs. In this case, we can view or we have an options. If we look over to the right, we have the time-lapse feature, print, system-wide alarms, the help button, and then we have a drop-down arrow which displays a menu of manual commands, setup tree, about web control, and then log out. In the bottom right-hand corner, this indicates if there's any errors on the page. Now let's log in for a live demo of web control. Every user should have a unique username and password. When I log into Web Control, it takes me to the system level. This is the navigation tree. This is the action pane. On the navigation tree, I am first under the geographic tree. If I select the BAS University, I notice this little icon that looks like a floor plan. That is all of my areas of my building. The geographic tree should represent your building. Now from BAS University, I see I have my thermographic colors. If I go to my floor 1, this will only show me the thermographic colors for floor 1. If I go back to BAS University, I also have these links under each floor. And if I select these links, it also takes me to that area in the geographic tree. While on the first floor, if I select the Media Center, it takes me to that area. Let's look at some different things you can do while on the Media Center's graphics. The first is the set points. I can see I'm using occupied set points, and in the green bar they are 69 to 74. Over here is representing my zone sensor, and it's saying my zone is 69.1 degrees, and it is occupied until 5 p.m. If I select in the light blue, I can see 67 to 69, and the dark blue is 65 to 67. Anytime this zone temperature goes between any of these numbers, that is the color it will show up on a thermographic floor plan. Web Control always tries to maintain the 69 to 74 so it stays in the green. On the zone sensor, if I am too warm or too cold, just like if I was in the zone, I can do my set point adjust. I can go down by -2 degrees, or I can go up by 2 degrees. And if I go down by 2 degrees, I must come up and select accept. And then it'll come up and Web Control will show me the set point adjusted by -2 degrees. And if I go back to my thermographic floor plan, I can select either the floor 1 or Web Control has a back button. If I select that, it takes me to the last place I was in the tree. Do not get confused with Web Control's back button versus your web browser's back button. Now I can see my new thermographic floor plan because I've adjusted the set points. If I go back to the Media Center, I have all of these action buttons. The first is View Graphics, and when I hover over, it'll tell me what each button would do. This is View or Edit Properties. If I select that, I see this new set of tabs, and it goes through the control program, I/O points, alarm sources, trend sources, network points, BACnet objects, RNet points, and checked out. These tabs are only for this one piece of equipment. The next is the schedules, where we can view or set up schedules. And I can see I can view, I can configure, or I could run scheduling reports. The Alarms tab will let me view or set up alarms. Now because I'm on the Media Center, these are alarms only for the Media Center. Trends, this is where I can view or set up trends. This tree opens up and it's under the Media Center. And if I select the zone temperature, it now shows me that trend. Next is the Logic tab. This is the control program that's running in the controller in the field. This is how our piece of equipment will operate. The last button is the Reports button. If I go to its drop-down arrow, I can see all of the report categories and then the items or the reports that are under each category. The next is the time lapse. Print. This will print whatever page I'm currently on. System level alarms. If I select this, it takes me to the system level and to the alarm page. Next is the help, if I select the Help button, it takes me to the Help files. Now, because I was on the Alarms button in Web Control, it took me to Help for Alarms. And then we have the System menu. This is where I can do a manual command, set up the tree. If I have certain add-ons, they will be listed right here, About Web Control, and Log Out. The Log Out feature should always be used if you're going to walk away from your workstation. The next tree is your network tree. This is for the networks and the controllers. And this is what it would look like. Your next tree is the Schedule Groups tree. This is where we add scheduling groups, and then we can add pieces of equipment to that group to create one schedule that will go to all pieces of equipment that's in the group versus having to individually go to each piece of equipment and creating schedules. And last is the system configuration. This is where we can find different settings for this system and also create operators and privileges.